Good Yantif, everyone. The internet teaches that it takes about 25 seconds to make a single shot of espresso. Cold brew coffee, on the other hand, is made by soaking ground coffee beans in water for a minimum of 14 hours, 2,000 times longer than it takes to make that shot of espresso. The return on investment, better flavor, less bitterness, easier on the stomach, and for the cold brew faithful, so much more. Slowing down our food preparation is not limited to coffee. The mythic dishwasher salmon recipe, crock-pot cheesecakes, and of course, Shabbos cholent fit this genre long before you could treat yourself to a cold brew at your local coffee shop. In each case, rather than a quick shot, you get to savor every drop of the experience. We live in a fast-paced city in a world that gives us many signals that we must sleep less, accomplish more quickly, where working when we are sick is still lauded, and the value of getting extra time back is distilled into VIP amusement park passes and fancy statuses to skip security lines at the airport. To be fair, we have some precedents in Jewish tradition about hurrying things up. Im lo achshav ematai, says Hillel in Pirkei Avot. If not now, when? He asks after saying that we must take care of ourselves and also take care of others. And in our prayers after meals every day, and our prayers on the high holidays in the Amidah, we come back to the expression, Bimheira v'yameinu. May Jerusalem be built up, Bimheira v'yameinu, speedily in our days. May there be happiness and joy there, speedily in our days. The Haftarah we heard a few minutes ago centers around Chana, a woman who is beloved by her polygynous partner, who is experiencing infertility, and who eventually, despite all odds, not only conceives but gives birth to a child who will grow up to be a leader. A miraculous story, yet a familiar biblical motif that we know from this morning's Torah reading as well. The story opens from the beginning of the biblical book of Samuel, introducing Elkanah. Elkanah has 2 wives. Penina has many children. Hannah really wants children, but doesn't have a single one. To further the mess of this family dynamic, on their annual trips to Shiloh, Penina actively causes tsuras for Hannah by taunting her. Rashi imagines this as a sort of bullying, Penina saying things like, "Did you buy your older son a cloak? Did you get your younger son a shirt?" It's pretty gross. Hannah, even with all the tsuras, even with marat nefesh, an embitterment of herself, Hannah, who could not stop crying, could not even eat from the special offering the family brought to Shiloh, our Hannah entered into the shrine and prayed. She cried, she prayed, she cried some more, she made an oath, she prayed some more. The narrator shares her unusual style of prayer. Her lips were moving, but her voice was inaudible. Eli, the priest of the place, noticed Hannah's behavior and criticized her, accusing Hannah of drunkenness, accusing her of making a fool of herself. "Off with your wine." "What wine?" Hannah responds, "No, sir. A woman of difficult spirit am I. I have not had anything to drink. I am pouring my soul out to the eternal." Hannah has been so focused, so present with God, she barely gets defensive and rather simply states the facts. I have been pouring my soul out to the eternal. Hanukkah's radical presence in this biblical narrative is inspiring. Classical Jewish sources point to this moment where we learn, as a moment from which we learn how to pray. The text doesn't simply tell us that Hannah cried once. It says the word cry over and over and over again, underscoring Hannah's kavanah, her intention, her complete presence of heart and mind that manifests in her body in this one specific prayer. Our sages will come to teach us that from Hannah, we learn that we are to pray in our hearts with our lips moving, and that we are to pray with our whole self. We learn that when we pray the Amidah, even the physical placement of our bodies, feet planted firmly on the ground in one place, mirrors our outsides, the presence of mind and heart we might feel on our insides. Hannah's presence is also striking in how unself-conscious she is, without so much as criticizing Eli, who didn't at first realizing what he was witnessing. The depth of Hannah's self-awareness, her authenticity, her intimate connection with God have challenged Eli not to make any more assumptions and simply to offer her a blessing on her way. What would it take for any of us to be so present that we would have the authenticity and the self-confidence of Hannah? Let's go back to our childhoods. Walter Mischel's famous marshmallow study out of Stanford 60-ish years ago presented children the opportunity to have a single marshmallow immediately, or to wait and then have 2 marshmallows in 15 minutes. Many of the subjects were tracked over time, and for years people have been trying to draw a causal relationship between the child who waited 15 minutes and better outcomes for that child as a grown-up. Sometimes we adults might ask ourselves, would I have waited the 15 minutes if it were me? A study 5 years ago sought to debunk the myth of the predictive power of the marshmallow test. Dee Gill from UCLA's Anderson School of Management wrote, "Marshmallow tests are popular with parents and educators, partly because of the adorable things that children do when left alone with temptation. They sniff it, they taste it, get their faces up in it, really close to it. They twist away, they squeeze their eyes shut, they dance, they sing, they rock in their seats, and of course sometimes they just eat it." So while the bias in speculating how to extrapolate from the study was toward the children who waited and received 2 marshmallows, I want to offer a different perspective. Some children were excited about the marshmallow, ate the marshmallow, and that was the end of that. I hope they were not taunted later with another marshmallow that they would not receive. The setting for the marshmallow test does not precisely mimic Hannah's tears and supplications in Shiloh, but watching marshmallow test videos reveals children who are present with the marshmallow, and many manifest it in their body, dancing, singing, with a total lack of self-consciousness. In a world, these children are radically present. And arguably, the child who eats the marshmallow right away is really living in the moment. Someone is offering me a tasty treat, so why overcomplicate things? What would it take for us to be so present that we could embrace pleasure that is right in front of us right now? As adults, sometimes we have a tendency to overcomplicate things. Even CEOs, especially CEOs. Here's a story from Zach Teutsch, who is a managing partner at Values Added, a financial company that helps progressives build financial lives they feel good about. These are Zach's words. One of my clients was thriving in a C-suite role in a billion-dollar startup. When we talked about what he really wanted, he said that the intensity of that work wasn't sustainable. What he really wanted to be was more present in his kids' lives. He knew that they would only be home for a few more years before college, and worried that he wasn't making the most of that limited time. I asked, why not make a change and spend more time with them now? He said he was not sure he'd have enough money to do that without major impacts later. So I said, what I think I hear you saying is that it is a future risk you are concerned about that is keeping you in your position now. He agreed. And I said, what about the certainty that you are missing out on something important to you right now? He had never thought about it quite that way. Avoiding the risk of a future bad outcome by guaranteeing a current bad outcome. He was ready to make a change. In today's Haftarah reading, Eli nearly got in Hannah's way while she was trying to be present, and then realized he needed to get out of her way. In Zach's story, however, the client, I think, was getting in his own way, imagining the worst scenarios about the future that was beyond his control. He learned that what he could control was how to show up in the moment. What would it take for us to be aware of the opportunities that are already right in front of us? Thousands of years have passed since Hannah's life-changing trip to Shiloh. Many of us associate locations such as CBST, Masonic Hall, the Javits Center as pilgrimage sites of this season. But the most important pilgrimage we take in this season is into the depths of our hearts. High holiday observance is about looking back to the past year so that we can be as present as possible today. This inward looking begins with us as individuals. The prayer book gives us an opportunity every single day of the year to reflect on our successes, to reflect on how we have missed the mark, how to make things right, and how to let go. And during this season, we turn up the temperature on self-reflection. Each of us is urged to turn back time, thank you, Cher, in our interpersonal relationships, in our relationship with the divine, with the earth, even in our relationships with ourselves. All the way through Yom Kippur, our prayers evoke the image of a God who can see right through us, a God who is present with us, no matter how present we feel, a God who knows us better than we even know ourselves. And when we follow God's example and are honest with ourselves, whether about our tiniest shortcomings or our greatest sins this past year, when we apologize wholeheartedly and do the necessary work of repair in our relationships, we bring ourselves back to a present with a preference of listening over talking, for being quicker to deliberate and slower to decide. And we might discover that in that present, we come to live with less regret and so much more delight. Hannah was intimately connected with God. Her upset, her anger were not distractions from her prayer. She allowed herself to feel her feelings and derived strength from that clarity and vulnerability. When we admit mistakes, we are stronger for it. Stronger for our honesty, stronger for our vulnerability, and stronger because we are facing ourselves right here, right now. Imagine us remembering this lesson even when it's hard, and imagine leading by example. We human beings often get caught up in the next thing and the thing after that. Fear of missing out, doom scrolling, and the burning world whose birthday we celebrate today do not make staying in the moment particularly easy. Could we ever be so present that it feels like we are pausing time itself? God's job is to be everything, everywhere, all at once. But our job is not. Our power comes from being right here, right now. And if you believe in a God who has direct expectations from us, then I would posit that God does not want us to give up the power to be fully and radically present. So, Rabbi, is there a blessing for my cold brew coffee? We may not have a blessing unique to drinking this tasty cup. We do, however, have a ritual that honors how we got here, that savors the power of the present before we shift our focus to what may lie ahead. That ritual is the blessing Shehechianu. Thank you, God, for keeping us alive, for sustaining us, and bringing us to this time. Shehechianu is the closest ritual we have to stopping time. The 11 words of the blessing set aside the what-ifs of the future, and no matter what the path is, lazman hazeh, to this very moment, we are grateful that we are right here, right now. We cannot turn back time, but we can choose to savor every drop of the present. Shehechianu. We press pause on time at the beginning of every holiday. We pause time when we put on special new clothing, when we eat fruit for the first time that season, see a friend after a long time, reach a milestone event. We can say Shehechianu when we receive a vaccine or take a medicine that is about to change our life. We can pause time as we arrive to this moment, lazman hazeh. Soon, before we hear the shofar's blast, we will recite the blessing, Shehechianu. Echoing our blessing, the shofar calls us to be present right now. In this new year, let us take notice of when we are self-conscious, when we are unnecessarily holding back an emotion, when we are not showing up with as pure of heart and mind as we could be. Let us be inspired by Chana's unapologetic, authentic, radical presence. In a world with so much despair, let us embrace moments of joy without apology. Everyone needs these moments, and no one is second best because they eat the marshmallow that they are offered. Let us be more honest with ourselves. Trusted family, friends, colleagues, therapists will help with this, but ultimately each of us is responsible for getting out of our own way so we can be fully present. May we be lifelong learners who reflect on our actions every day and make amends when we have fallen short. In this new year, let us savor the moments that feel like time has stopped. And let us be so radically present that we identify more of these moments. May our slowing down make us better listeners. May our choices be more deliberate. And may we live with almost no regret and with an abundance of delight. Shana Tova U'Metuka. We move forward in our service while the Sifrei Torah are still out from